Hello, everybody. My name is Nick Panuccio, the District Clerk, and I'd like to call the meeting to order. It is 6:03. Can we please stand for the pledge? I pledge allegiance
To the flag
of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to our reorganization meeting. First, I would like to give the oath of offices for the newly elected board members. We will start with Bill Haddad. Bill, can you repeat after me, please?
Or could I just read it?
Yeah, you can do that. Sure.
I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of Board of Education member according to the best of my ability.
Thank you, Bill. Wes, do you have to be able to do that, or do you need to repeat after me?
I'll read mine as well.
Okay.
I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of Board of Education member according to the best of my ability.
Thank you, and congratulations, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next of business will be the election of officers. At this time, I'd like to open the floor for nominations for board president.
I nominate Bill Haddad
Second.
for president of the board.
Any other nominations? Nominations are now closed. All in favor?
Aye.
I will abstain.
Any opposed? Carried. Can I get a nomination for the election of board vice president, please?
Nominate
Like
Lauren Crosby.
Lauren Crosby, but I'll second it.
Any other nominations for vice president? Nominations are now closed. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Carried. I will now turn the meeting over to our board president, Bill Haddad.
But you have to actually do our oath of offices for.
Okay, you can read yours, and then I'll have Lauren go next. Sorry about that.
So I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York, and I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of the board president according to the best of my abilities.
Lauren, do you need to repeat after me?
Yes, I don't have it in front of me. I can't get the pull up. If you could, please.
All right, repeat after me, please. I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office
discharge the duties of the office
of Vice President of the Board of Education according to the best of my
Vice President Board of Education to the best of my abilities.
Okay, thank you. This is why I only do this once a year. Now I will turn it over to our board president, Bill Haddad. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for your report on all of this.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 4, appointments to committees. Just for the record, we are basically staying as the same committees, but I will read these off here. Audit, myself, Bill Haddad, Wes Hood, Kathleen Niles. Safety, Debbie New, Tracy Quinn. Facilities, Wes Hood, Bill Haddad, Lauren Crosby. Academic, Tracy Quinn, Tim Bazan, Debbie New. Policy, Lauren Crosby, Tim Bazan, Kathleen Niles. I think I got them all right, correct?
Looks
Yes.
good
Yeah.
to me.
All right. Also, let me introduce, we have our superintendent, Sean Bassetta, on, along with Chris Clancy, who is our assistant superintendent of instruction and special programs, and Nick Panuccio, our executive director of finance and operations. So that is also who is in attendance with us this evening. Okay. All right. We do have a lot of consent agendas tonight, so we're going to get through this. So C, resolved upon the recommendation of superintendent of schools, the board does hereby make the following 2020-21 appointments. This is a consent agenda, items 1 through 22. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
You got a
I'll
second?
second.
in there?
Lauren, go ahead first, second last.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Any discussion here? Now, just for people who don't have the agenda in here, I just wanted to. This is the appointments of district clerk, district treasurer, tax collector, extra classroom activity accounts, CFO, who our independent auditors are, along with all of our Title 4, or Title 9. Is that what
9.
Karen got? 9.
9.
Who our attorneys are, along with our financial consultants, who our attendance officers are, so there's, and our special education chairs. Any other discussions on this? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. All right, this item 23 on here is our Oneida Madison Herkimer, right? This is our OMH representatives for the school year. I did Kathleen and Tim. I don't know. Do you still want to maintain those positions?
Yeah.
Kathleen?
Yeah.
Okay. So if I can have a motion to approve the OMH SBI representative and alternate for the 2020-21 school year to be trustee Niles and the alternate to be trustee Bazan. May I have a motion?
So
So
moved.
moved.
Any other discussions on this? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. D, resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the board does hereby approve the following 2020-21 designation. This is also a consent agenda, items 1 through 12. May I have a motion?
So moved.
moved.
Second.
Thank you. Discussion. Again, for the public, this is who our bank is, who's authorized to use credit cards, who's authorized to invest funds, who's authorized to sign official papers, sign checks, sign grants, who's preparing our tax rolls and tax bills, certify payroll, and who our official newspaper is. Any other discussions on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. E, resolved upon the recommendation of superintendent of schools, the board does hereby approve the following. This is also consent agenda items 1 through 7. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Again, for the public on these, this is that we're going to have board meetings on the second Tuesday of every month. The fourth Tuesday will be used for special meetings. Our substitute rates of retired teachers at $102 a day, certified teachers at $95, and non-certified at $85 a day. We're covered under district insurance. Mileage reimbursement is the IRS rate. How much petty cash is in each office. Staff ERS standard hours per the attachments. and approve the Board of Education superintendent to attend the New York State School Board Convention with expenses. Any other discussion here? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Routine matters. The Board of Education minutes from June 23rd, 2020. May I have a motion?
So
So
moved.
moved.
Second. All
I'll
those.
second.
That's fine. Any other discussion, corrections? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay. Public comment. The only thing that we did receive a very nice letter from some grandparents commending us on our graduation ceremonies. So that was very nice from them to take the time to do that, and I would thank them for that. You guys should have all received that email. Other than that, Nick, I didn't see anything else today.
No other comments.
Any questions? All right. Next is we have our superintendent. He's going to give us a update, along with probably the rest of the staff here, about an update on reopening. So I'll turn it over to you, Sean.
Okay, I know this is a subject that a lot of people are very curious about. We've been obviously it's been taking up a lot of our recent conversations internally as a staff, and I'd like to. I think we're going to get a graphic up there. I'd like to, as we walk you through. Just like to walk you through what's happened to so far in the process in recent weeks, and what we expect to happen in the next really couple of weeks. A lot should be happening by today's Tuesday. By next Tuesday, I think we'll know a lot more than we do right now. But just to walk back a little bit, at the last board meeting, we shared with you our 5-phase approach to handling the reopening of schools. Obviously, we're still at the point where we've been assessing the good parts and the parts where we struggled since March of our remote instruction plan. We've been gathering feedback, gathering data, and organizing our information so that we can move forward in a productive manner. We're anxious to get fully into the plan construction. We are in tentative plan construction, noted as phase 2. But the problem is we need to know the rules of the game. And even though the state has on multiple occasions said, and actually the governor said again, I know he said it yesterday, he may have again today as well, that he has directed schools to have reopening plans. We've also been directed to be creative. However, we know that we're not going to have complete autonomy to be as creative as we'd like to be without parameters. We know there are going to be rules and regulations that are going to guide us. And so we need that before we can really deal with phase 3, which is take our tentative plans and then fit them to the guidance that the state is providing. And we're going to come back to that in a minute because there should be a significant amount of information coming out in a few days on that particular issue. Once we get past phase 3, then we can launch fully into implementing the plan locally of what does our plan look like in Canastota. We're very anxious to get to that phase once we have complete information from the state. And then finally, phase 5, which is going to be our continued updating and modifying of our plan based on the circumstances that come with this. We know that, we did some things pretty well. We know that we struggled in some areas as we closed out the school year. So no matter what we plan on having an effective plan as we head towards fall, but we know we're going to have to keep tweaking it and modifying it, given whatever circumstances come at us. We also know that it might be necessary to have a few different things over the course of the year. The way we start the year, in whatever form that is, may not be the way that we're operating a month or two into the year. So we know that it's going to be, we're going to have to be flexible and adaptable to the circumstances. So we can go to the next slide. So just to give you a little bit of a timeline of how things have unfolded. Back in May, the governor said that in June, we would be getting guidance that would help us to navigate through the reopening process. We all know that didn't happen. What ended up happening was the Board of Regents and the State Education Department announced on June 8th in a memo that they were going to be forming a 4-part regional school reopening task force. And so they held these 4 meetings on the 15th, 17th, 22nd, 24th of June. At those meetings, they had approximately 200 people. I was one of them in the group that from our region, where they brought people together, shared some information, and then carved up people into smaller groups where we were able to pose questions, raise comments and concerns about the challenges of reopening school. With that information, these reopening task force are going to be presenting their findings and will be recommending guidance documents on July 13th. So that's next Monday when the Board of Regents is meeting. So we're hopeful that next Monday that will be turned around quickly. We're hoping that the Board of Regents accepts or quickly accepts whatever guidance is going to be distributed to us so we can get on with the business of making it work for Canastota. So that's the timeline. We're obviously concerned when you look at July 13th, we're moving towards the middle of July. We really need to have that information. And again, that's sort of just reiterating some of the points I just made that of the different phases of their process. So again, July 13th, Monday is the big date. So we've tried to anticipate in what form will we have to present our reopening plan. And as you recall, at the last board meeting, we gave an overview. We presented some guiding questions to help us make sense of what we had been through in the recent months and projecting into the fall. Since then, we've further tailored our response around these 9 areas of focus. Now, where did we come up with these 9 areas of focus? These are the 9 areas that the regional task force divided their work into. So when they had these 4 meetings around the state with a total of about 800 people involved, they broke the subgroup conversations down into those 9 areas. So for example, I was assigned into number 8, which is transportation, facilities, and nutrition. There's a lot in that at number 8 alone. So for that reason, we're really framing our work around those 9 areas because we don't know this for sure, but we're anticipating there's a high likelihood that when we have to present our reopening plans to the state, it's going to be built around those 9 areas that they've already designated as significant areas that need to be paid attention to. Moving to the next slide. There we go. So in anticipation of the Board of Regents action next week, we've been meeting in recent weeks on a weekly basis with a representative group of staff members. We've been meeting, as it turned out, every Tuesday. And we met again earlier today. And again, the group is really comprised of every area of district operation, both instructional and operational. So we have people that are tied to transportation, facilities, instruction, administration, right across the board, with the idea that we want to make sure that we're capturing all of the questions, concerns, comments, suggestions that are relevant to Canastota. As we've met both in whole group settings, and in typical meetings, we'll also then break down instructional and operational so that we can have smaller group meetings, more conversational and more pinpointed around those subjects. And again, our conversation earlier today centered around the fact that we're taking all those comments and further organizing around those 9 focus areas that we just spoke about. So when we look at this whole picture that we've been going through in recent weeks, we feel like we're positioned pretty well. That do we have a finalized plan? Definitely not. Is it even possible to have a finalized plan? Definitely not, because we don't have the rules that the state is going to hopefully give us next week. But we feel that we're positioned well to take that guidance from the state and use the information we've already gathered so that we can quickly and efficiently create the best plan that we can for our district. So as part of this process, we also realized, we want to continue to gather feedback because it's obviously important to have feedback from our staff, but there are a lot of other people, including kids, parents, who have good information for us as we consider the best plan for us. So I'm going to ask Chris Clancy to walk through some of the things we've been working on in the form of surveys that we've put together. So Chris, can you walk us through that?
Sure. Thank you, Sean. One of the suggestions that came out of weekly meetings to make sure we gather feedback from the people most impacted by the school closure. And so groups that we're focusing on for our surveys are staff members in the district. We decided that we wanted to also gather feedback from students. And we were targeting grades 7 through 12 for 2 reasons, because first is they experience with remote learning because they started digitally really from day one. We'd able to efficiently gather that feedback from them. It would be a little bit more challenging from elementary students to get that feedback. And the group that would still be presented, but that feedback would come from parents. So today, actually, we worked on the questions that wanted to include in the survey. There are going to be similar questions in each of the surveys around each of those 9 topics. So around things like digital and equitable access, around things like child care, time spent on remote learning each day, and other questions that are specific to parents around what kinds of support do you need as a parent if remote learning were to continue into the and questions for staff around things like what kinds of tech support would you need, or what kind of things would you like to continue to learn about in order to continue remote learning. So the surveys are, like I said, similar, but also specific to each of those groups. I also tried to develop them so that they can be answered in a reasonable amount of time. There is not an inordinate amount of questions on them. And really our focus is to try to target 2 things. One, to gather feedback of the remote learning process that everyone has experienced since March, so that we can make that better. Also to gather feedback from parents and staff members around their questions and potential concerns around reopening. So we believe this will be a really good way for us to gather all of their perspectives really as we work on this reopening plan, so that we can make sure everyone is represented and we can address all of the layers that be addressed with this plan. So our anticipated timeline is actually to distribute these surveys. There'll be digital surveys so that we can gather the information quickly. We would look to have those returned or completed by Monday of next week, so that when our team convenes on Tuesday morning for our weekly meeting, we can review that information, hopefully along with the information that the state provides, and use that to continue to work our plan.
Now, Chris, is
Yes.
that, for example, are you not going to do the kids that graduated, right? So it's really 8 through 11, or is it going to be the 6th graders that are coming up into 7 too? Have you decided how that's going to shake out? Does that make sense?
Well, it will definitely be 8 to 12. We may be able to do the 7th graders, but yeah, it will not be the just because we don't have a way to do that anymore. It wouldn't be students who just graduated. Yeah.
All right. So at least 8 through 11 and maybe 7, depending upon whether or not you can get those kids who are going from 6 to 7.
Correct.
Okay.
Any other questions about the space?
So the hope is, or we're anticipating that we'll have really 3 things by this time next week, that we would have a new set of survey results, that we'd have our reformatted internal document, our working document of critical questions, recommendations, all organized around these 9 areas that the state has identified. And finally, the third part is we would have hopefully the state guidance document that hopefully the Board of Regents will adopt in some fashion on next Monday. So a week from today, we'll know a lot more than we do right now. And again, that's just the beginning of our work, because now when we have all those pieces, particularly the guidance document, then we have to kick into action and make sure that we are operational. So our updates as we move to our next board meeting, I'm sure there'll be a lot of new information that we'll be ready to report. And obviously, we'll continue to report that to families and the community in general as we do our updates. As significant information comes out, we'll continue to push that information out to people to keep them informed.
Now, is there a parent member of this committee presently?
No, because we're getting the feedback results on the operational end. It wouldn't really be relevant. The meetings that we're talking about are related to internal operation, like how do we provide instruction and transportation and so on. So it's been the people who are actually having to do to execute those plans.
Just so often the state comes down and says, well, you've got to have a parent on these committees. So we haven't had to have a committee. There's nothing that's required us to do anything. We just knew that we didn't want to be flat-footed, and we knew that we had to get people, who were working in different areas of district operation. Right.
To be,
wait for next Monday.
Yeah. And this is already, this is a big group. I mean, this is a bigger group than I normally would have, not because I don't want to work with people, but it's about, we'd like to have it carved into smaller groups. So it's pretty large, pretty representative group of the district. And then we further break it down during the week. For example, I know Nick's been working on the operations side with, different subgroups, within facilities or transportation or food service, different conversations on the instructional side that are happening at the grade level or building levels. So there's a lot of subgroups, but we just have used this group as an anchor to make sure that we keep pushing it along and to tie it back together, because we know that one move done in isolation could cause a lot of problems for the other parts of the operation. For example, how long does it take to do a deep cleaning in the district, right? So we've talked to Nick and Donnie Peretta and, those guys to get that information, or how many kids can we get on a bus given the current guidance we've had to talk to Cindy about. So there's all these different factors. And so I think the conversations have been good because we've been able to inform each of the groups have been informed by the areas that they're not normally is familiar with. What did I miss, Nick? Or Chris? You guys, Nick and Chris have obviously been involved with this heavily as well.
Yeah, I don't think you missed anything. I think you said it best. We don't know what we're going to do until we get the guidance. But we are meeting in groups and subgroups, and there's probably a good 60 to 75 voices that we're listening to in total. So when Sean says that it's a bigger group than we're used to dealing with, it is.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think you missed anything, Sean. I think just going experience back into a similar process remote learning plan, in that we didn't really have specific guidance, but we anticipated what we need and we prepared so that when the guidance came, we were prepared. And I'm really pleased with the progress we've made in a short amount of time with the group. Again, we've gotten really great feedback from the people that are representing their building grade levels. And I think we're going to be in a good place when the guidance comes out.
I definitely agree with Chris's comments. We appreciate the feedback. It's been very positive. Despite all the question marks, I think people have really not only posed questions, but they've come up with lots of potential solutions and things that are probably going to end up happening in our plan. So we appreciate that.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Yeah, anybody else? Any other questions? Listen, I want to thank you for guys, because I know that you're working I know you're working a ton of scenarios on what might be or what it may look like. And I think the survey, I think back to your point, Debbie, is I think once the survey comes back, we're probably going to find some challenges in the public that we haven't even thought about that's out there. We'll see what, so again, for us on the board and people watching, as soon as the survey comes out, I mean, encourage people to participate in there. That way they get their needs at least addressed or at least heard. If we don't know about it, we can't fix it. So, okay. Any other questions? I'm sorry.
Yeah, can I just, now this areas of focus, now is that posted somewhere? I mean, I tried to write them down, but I think those are very, appropriate, and that everybody, that's good to have that info out there, and it might well be out there. I'm just asking whether or not that, is out there, it's posted somewhere. Because I think it's good for people to know. These are the things that, you have to go and we have to think about. I just wondered, Chris, is it posted somewhere?
It's not currently posted. It was honestly information we reviewed this morning at our meeting, so it was pretty fresh to everyone. I would think we could connect it to the district survey. When we post the survey on our website and we can include that information there.
That'd be great.
It's
no, I don't know. And am I just the one that's just getting Chris is kind of burbling at times?
Yes.
Or is that everybody?
That's Chris. Chris got a lot of bandwidth.
Yeah, sorry, I'm streaming the meeting and participating in the meeting, so
okay.
I'm probably overdoing my home Wi-Fi. Sorry.
Yeah, we can easily post those items. It's been, as Chris said, it's sort of, we're using it as part of our working document. but we can post it. I think the funny thing about it, not funny, but the unusual thing about it is they're not equally weighted as far as how much time needs to be invested in it. You know, like for example, that number 8, you know, facilities, transportation, and food service, that's probably about 1 million people hours of work, where some of those are not as much of a hill to climb for us. So real uneven, but at least it's a way of organizing it, I guess. So yeah, we can certainly post it so people can see, you know, where we're heading.
It just seems like it's a very kind of complete, comprehensive list. And I just, you know, thought maybe that, you know, people who are interested, it's just one more piece of information that people would have. I just, you know, I thought it was very, very appropriate.
Yep, we can do that.
Okay, anything else on reopening? Okay, got to move on to new business. Also a consent agenda. These are items 1 through 10. The words aren't there. So I guess I'm going to say, resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the board does hereby approve the following consent agenda items 1 through 10. May I have a motion?
So moved.
All right, Tim and Debbie. Okay. Any discussion? All right. These got a lot of money involved, so I do want to talk a little bit about these, and I also want to make sure we acknowledge the last one on there. So quickly, we are approving the transfer of capital reserve funds in the amount of $1.5 million. We are also transferring for unemployment insurance reserve fund $250,000 for the retirement. Was there a question? We're approving the transfer of retirement contribution reserve funds in the amount of up to $1 million. Transfer of workers' compensation reserve fund of $250,000. I hope I'm not repeating these. Transfer of retirement contributions, the TRS fund, $1 million. General fund expenditures totaling less than $5 million. This has to do with our internal audit function. That resolution approving a pilot agreement with Lennox Renewable LLC. That's a solar farm. Also, a resolution rescinding the opt-out under real property tax law as a matter of practice here that we need to do under real estate tax law section 487. There's an additional resolution for all certain solar and wind energy farms, waste systems under section 487 also. The district designation of a cooperative health insurance fund. Make sure I don't go too far here. We needed to, in your packet, there's an indication here, we needed to increase the lunch prices across 10 cents across the board in order to stay in compliance. So that information is also in your packet. And the last item, number 10 here, is that we, Canastota AYSO program would like to donate $1,170 worth of new soccer equipment, which is two 8x24 kickback outdoor style aluminum goals, 2 kickback outdoor style adapter kits, and 2 storage bags. attached is the description of the item. If the gift is accepted, we want to thank Zach Stevens and Canastota AYSO. So like I said, I wanted to acknowledge that, not just in a total consent decree here. So any
Bill?
other discussion? Yes,
Yeah,
ma'am.
what is number 9?
No, number 9, Children's Therapy Network, professional services agreement. Chris or Nick, I'm assuming you guys can talk to.
They provide special education services.
So in other words, is that, sending, somebody to them, or they help us, or what?
No, they provide services to students who are unable to come to school.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, this is not new.
No, I
No, it's
figured,
not
but I
new.
don't know. No, I never asked. Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Any other discussion? Questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay. A lot of stuff tonight. Committee reports. I'll just open this up. I don't think from the last time we met that anybody met. Right?
Nope.
Nobody met. Nobody had any.
No.
Okay. We will start chairpersons of those. We ought to start looking at dates for your committee if they're the same, or get those on the calendar so that we can get those published out there in advance. I'll do the same with audit, and we may move off of Wednesday. Maybe, I don't know. I'll talk. Wes and I can talk maybe if Wednesday. It seems like we moved more Wednesdays than we had Wednesday meetings. So maybe we go to a different evening and we can talk about it. Kathleen and Lauren, for us that are all on the same committees there, we usually meet back to back.
In regard to that, I think we definitely want to get with the people involved with the capital project and see what day they're meeting for their weekly jobs meetings are going to be, so that we can, because probably be fresh on their mind to try to do it the same night as they get done with theirs.
Perfect. Yeah, let's circle up on that and we'll get those scheduled.
I'll look into that.
And again, same for everybody else's committees. Either they can stay the same, and but the big thing is let's get that into the office there so we get them published. All right. Anything else on committees? Any committee reports? All right. Board comment period. I just have one item here. In talking with Sean, we'd like to early August schedule a board workshop retreat, something that looks like that. My conversation was I'd love to nail down a date to do that right now. But my suggestion is we ought to see what reopening may look like. And it may have a different theme, or may have a different date, or it may have, something more than we could know right this second. So I think so I guess the thing is expect something to do on a board meeting retreat kind of event, somewhat early August, second week of August, maybe at the last. We want to refine board goals, kind of the direction that we're going in. If there's anything that we spent a lot of time on it last year, we think that they're okay, but we may need to just revisit those so that way we can get those off to the administration so they can share that with staff as they're coming in. So more to come on that. And I know that we've got some stuff that we need to meet on also, probably before that. Anything else? Anybody else board wise? Okay, superintendent's report.
Okay, just a couple last items on graduation. It seems like we talked so much about it for such a long time. We just want to thank the school community for your patience with the whole process. In the end, I think while it wasn't what we would have hoped it to be with a more traditional graduation ceremony, we do think that in totality, when we took all the different pieces together, that we did have a nice send off for our seniors, and those are still posted on our website. So if people are wanting to see both the senior in-person ceremony, also the virtual ceremony that families were able to participate in, you can certainly still check those out on the website. Along the same lines of celebrating our seniors, we also are trying to do some things to celebrate some of our other students. To bookend it, our students who are just finished kindergarten, we wanted to acknowledge that they've are off to a good start at Canastota schools, and those students' names are rolling now on the digital sign. Those students are being acknowledged. So our kindergarten graduates, and then each of the grade levels that are moving and graduating, so to speak, from their buildings are also rolling, and they will be for the next couple of weeks. So if people want to check that out and see if you see some familiar names, they will be rolling on the digital sign. So our students leaving Peterborough, leaving first grade, will be acknowledged. Our students leaving third grade in Southside, and finally the sixth graders who are going to be leaving Robert Street, all are going to be acknowledged on that sign. Just a quick word on summer school, because I know there have been some questions about summer school. Yes, it is happening, but of course, like everything else, it looks different than it typically would. At the high school level, it is, as it has been in the past, a BOCES run program. It is fully remote, and it is started this week, started actually yesterday, and runs for the typical, it's approximately 6 weeks. It ends around the middle of August. Still focused on the core courses. There's no major differences in what's offered and the required courses for our students. One of the areas that we look a little bit different in this year is that where in a typical year, students are capped at taking 2 classes, they can take up to 4 classes because of the remote nature of the setup this year. So there's a little bit more flexibility, but kids are still able to access summer school classes at the high school level. K-8 looks different. If you recall, last year we ran grades up through third grade through the BOCES LEAP program, a 4-week summer school program. We had already been planning up until all of the chaos that started in March. We were planning on bringing Robert Street back into the summer program equation. We wanted to go up through 6th grade. So we're happy to say that still is going to happen, albeit remote. It's not in the form that we would have liked. Because there's not a 7th and 8th grade summer school program through BOCES this year, we have included and have been able to include 7th and 8th grade in that summer LEAP program. So that's the good news, that we are still able to do that at the local level. Because of some of the challenges for our Peterborough students, because of the age, there was a general feeling that was going to be a tough task to do a summer program for K and 1. So the LEAP program this year is expanded greatly from last year. It will cover grades 2 through 8. So a significant expansion from last year's summer program. So LEAP will be grades 2 through 8. Because we knew that we were now doing this internally, and for the most part, we will be using staff. Everybody who's working in that program will be current Canastota staff members. But for planning purposes, and because a lot of the feedback we were getting from families was kids are sick of staring at the computer screens. because we knew our teachers needed to be able to make some adjustments in preparation for delivering summer school in a new format. And also because the numbers we knew would look different. You're now not working with a class of 20 kids in a summer school setting. It can be more individualized and personalized to smaller groups of kids or students. We are able to be a little more reactive to what those students need. And so for those reasons, the LEAP program will run throughout the month of August. So it will run every Monday through Thursday through the month of August, with the hopes that that will be a nice launch opportunity for kids as they're getting ready to start the new school year in September. So backed up from where it typically has fallen in the calendar, but we think it'll ultimately yield a better program because our teachers are able to have a little more lead time and be able to construct schedules and match remote calendars to help students as much as possible. So that's what summer school looks like, different, but yet I think we'll still be able to address a lot of the needs that our students have. Couple of other items. We will are getting close to being able to send our plans for the capital project that was passed last December. The idea is to submit them this month. We had a target date of July 10th. Nick and I had a conversation, I believe yesterday, with our architects and project manager. Looks like we're going to be pretty close to that timeline. It may drift into the following week because they're wanting to confirm some drawings. But all in all, we're going to be able to be pretty close to our timeline we discussed. We're actually getting feedback that the state ed review is actually both on the architectural and on the mechanical, engineering and plumbing side. They're moving, knock on wood, at a fairly good rate. So we feel like we're in good position to hopefully get approval and be able to go to bid in the fall. And finally, as we're dealing with all these different changes, talking about reopening plans, also two other plans that are important for the district are our school improvement plans for Robert Street. Mr. Faustino has been working tirelessly with the Robert Street staff, constructing a good plan. We want to be able to share that new and updated plan. We'll be ready to do that probably at the August board meeting. We've got very positive feedback in working with representatives from state ed, so we feel good about where we are. The second plan is the district-wide improvement plan, which we're also continuing to work on. We have a committee meeting to review where our plan stands, I believe, on Thursday of this week. And so again, by the August board meeting, we should be able to give you a pretty good overview of where those plans stand. Obviously, we don't know. There's some variation depending on what way we're in school. Are we back to in-person, or is it remote, or is it a hybrid version? That's obviously going to impact what our plan looks like, and both of those plans will have that reflected in it, whatever our format is. And finally, to be able to best service all of these things that are going on in the district, just want to mention that I think this whole situation has really put a magnifying glass on the fact that districts are trying to be creative across the board, with or without the pandemic and remote learning and all that. We are going to, in coming board meetings, we'll be bringing to you some opportunities, I think, where we can share some things regionally, where we can really work to be efficient in our operation. And so more to come on that, but I just wanted to put that out there that I think there will be some things on the instructional side and the operational side that we could look at doing some things with neighboring regional districts. Makes sense because it makes us better and more effective in how we do our job. And if we can be more efficient in the way we spend our money, then it's definitely a good thing. So much more to come on that, but I think all good things to talk about. And I'll stop talking with that. Are there any questions?
Anybody for superintendent? Okay, then move on. Personnel recommendations. All appointments are pending clearance on fingerprinting. No resignations or retirements. Number 2, permanent appointments. Resolve that Jacob Smith is hereby appointed on a probationary basis in the tenure area of business and marketing, with the understanding that the named individual does hold New York State certification appropriate to or required for that position. That the probationary appointment shall commence on September 1st, 2020. That the probationary appointment shall expire on September 1st, 2024. And the named individual will be eligible for an appointment of tenure upon expiration of the probationary period. It shall be necessary but not sufficient that the individual has received an annual professional performance review rating of either effective or highly effective in 3 of the 4 years of probationary service, and has not received an annual professional performance rating of ineffective in the final year of the probationary appointment, as based on ratings derived in compliance with educational law section 3012-D, with a salary of $44,589, step 2, with bachelor's. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Debbie and Wes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Congratulations. Resolved that Danielle Burgos is hereby appointed on a probationary basis and is pending a New York State certification in the tenure area of school psychologist, with the understanding that the named individual has applied for a New York State certification appropriate to or required for that position. That the probationary appointment shall commence on August 1st, 2020, and that probationary appointment shall expire on August 1st, 2024, and that the named individual to be eligible for appointment on tenure upon expiration of the probationary period, it shall be necessary but not sufficient that the individual has received an annual professional performance rating review rating of either effective or highly effective in 3 of the 4 years of probationary service, and has not received an annual professional performance rating of ineffective in the final year of the probationary appointment, is based on ratings derived in compliance with educational law section 3012-D at a salary of $65,008. Step 7, it's a bachelor's, master's of CAS, NBC plus 66 hours. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
All right, Kathleen and Debbie, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Resolved, upon the recommendation of the superintendent of school, the board does hereby appoint Stephanie O'Rourke as a part-time 712 social studies teacher at a salary of $26,428.50. Step 5, bachelor's, master's plus 30 hours, effective September 1st, 2020. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
So moved.
Debbie and Lauren, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. There is no substitution appointments. There's no coaching.
Can I just ask a question about what happened, what has happened? And again, maybe we talked about it before, but like, for example, what happened to APPR for those people this last part of the year? And like if they were in their second year in Canastota, what goes on, or where are those people now, those teachers?
Well, that APPR was suspended.
So what does that mean? I guess that's my question.
It just rolls, right, Sean? I mean,
It just didn't happen. I mean, we knew that was coming. It took a long time for that to happen because it's also got, there's state and federal implications to it, but it was just suspended for the year. So
does that mean?
In other words, they don't have a there is no score. People do not get an APPR score for 2019-20.
So where does that leave? I guess my question is, where does that leave people? For example, you hear, okay, so these people are on a 4-year tenure plan. Where does that leave somebody who was on a 4-year tenure plan? I guess that's my question.
State philosophy would be just like same thing that applies with a student. If you were a student, for example, a junior, if you're a junior, that's a big year for Regents exams. You're taking, multiple Regents exams. You don't have to make it up. It's just a year that you don't have to take it. You don't have to take those exams. Same thing applies to the APPR. You don't have it. You just don't get that score. It doesn't mean that your probationary period is extended. It doesn't mean that somebody who was on a 4-year probationary period, for example, now has to do 5 years. It's just, it becomes this non-factor, and that they couldn't produce a score.
It could, just to add a note to it, it could be a factor if it was a person that had a inefficient or was going to get an inefficient, that would have been their, when in fact next year would have been their tenure year. So it could have affected it somehow.
Yeah, I think there's probably going to be more guidance. It took so long for the state to actually come out and say there's not an APPR this year. And we thought it was pretty obvious, that it was going to be impossible to do. So my guess is there's going to be some more clarification with what we can or can't do, with it. I'm sure that.
Okay. So basically, if this was my, for example, if this was my 4th year, then I would automatically get tenure, is what you're saying?
No, there's a lot of different parameters to it. There was some discussion because of the lack of clarity in what the state put out. For example, we acted on tenure this year, but there are different circumstances, which is, it's probably, there are different circumstances that would shape whether you could or couldn't act on a tenure.
Okay. All right.
And then we're drifting into some of the legal questions, because then you're getting into the interpretation of attorneys, and had been some conversation around the state because there have been different interpretations even within attorneys. So I'm reluctant to get real deeply into all the meetings, because there hasn't even been agreement across the board on some of the interpretations from people who've been school attorneys for many years. So,
Wow.
I think we can be more specific at some point, but.
All right, thank you. I was just one more problem.
I guess we don't. I guess I know you're watching it. I don't think that in the next 3 months we have anybody who is in that, right? And anybody who we need to make a decision on tenure. But probably we're going to have those 4-year people who are coming up that we need to address probably closer to September, right, Sean?
Yeah, well, we felt we were comfortable. Remember back, a month or month and a half-ish ago, probably, when we acted on multiple tenure appointments, and that was in concert with, making sure that we were doing it in accordance with what our attorneys were advising us to be able to do. So I can tell you that our appointments were, in the eyes of our attorneys, we were okay to move forward with, to be able to act on tenure. Now, remember, when you're acting on tenure, say you're acting on it in May, which I think is when we've done, depending on when that tenure doesn't actually take effect off, for example, September would be the effective date. But you did actually act on those, and that was in accordance with the parameters our attorneys gave us. So we feel that we're in good shape.
For my tenure list. All right, any other questions? Anybody else? Anybody else at all on any item? All right, I'm going to throw in there that we're probably going to look at a tentative board meeting on July 28th. There might be some new appointments. Again, also some guidance from the state where we might be. The next regularly scheduled board meeting is August 11th.
The
Both of those.
28th as opposed to the 21st?
Our pattern has typically been the fourth, second
9:30. That's and drive slow.
Tuesday of the month. So that I think that's where that dated come from.
Yeah, where did you go? Hold on, I gotta go check my calendar.
Yeah, it's the 28th, the fourth Tuesday.
Yeah. Anybody initially have any major
I don't have a problem.
on that day?
That's right, the 28th. I was doing it 2 weeks from today, but this is an oddball. Yeah, the 28th is fine. Right.
Okay. So more to come on that. Again, we may be having to schedule some other meetings here based on, again, what reopening may look like or what kind of guidance. So right now, potential tentative on the 28th of July at 6:30, August 11th.
Okay.
Regularly scheduled meeting at 6:30. I don't have anything for executive session unless anybody else does. Okay, then I'm going to move to adjourn. Can I have a motion to adjourn, please?
So moved.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. All right, we're adjourned. Listen, thank you very much. Thank you for attending tonight, and have a great evening.
Good night,
Have a good one,
everyone.
everyone. Night. Night.